Yeah.
You're gonna hold that this whole time?
Yeah, I've done it before.
If you start shaking, then
I'll take over.
you get everybody a soda.
I mean, we could do that.
Okay, I'm gonna watch you.
Okay.
You're in my line of sight. Okay, so this is your meeting. You want to start?
Yeah, so just tell us about yourself.
Oh, that was quick. Okay, so my name's Regina Lackey, and I was elected to the Manteca City Council last year. So I started in December. The elections happen in November. It takes about a month for them to collect the results. So I've been in office for about 10 months now. Some about my history. I am an Air Force veteran. I served for 6 years active duty and 3 years in the Guard. And so usually when people are in service, there's some sort of conflict that they're involved with. So my conflict was the war on terrorism. So I was active duty when 9/11 happened. That was the day that everything changed for everybody, but military service members had to drop everything and prepare to deploy immediately. So the summer after 9/11 is when I deployed, and I went to Qatar or Qatar, depending on who you're talking to, and I served there for about 4 months over the summertime, scheduling search and rescue going into Iraq during the war on terrorism. Other than that, I was also, my very first duty station was in Korea, and we monitored the Korean Peninsula, and then I was stationed in Tucson working with Lockheed. My primary position there was to build a new computer system scheduling all military aircraft. So I worked hand in hand with Lockheed, wrote up the standard operating procedures for that, SOPs, and then I trained our contractors, enlisted, and officers on how to use that system. So when I separated active duty, I joined the Guard out in the Bay Area, and that's where my husband now, we were dating at the time, that's where he lived, and so we decided to start a family out there. And so I was a stay-at-home mom for 15 years, and during that time, I focused on raising my kids and volunteer work. I was a professional volunteer, so I did not know the word no. Clearly, I still don't. So during that volunteer time, I volunteered at schools, PTA. There was a co-op called Humpty Dumpty that I worked with. And then I started in with Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts. I directed day camps, got into just about everything I could. So about 7 years ago, both my kids started school full time, and there was a post on social for an office. They had sold my previous home. They were looking for a little help at the office. And so I called them up and said, hey, what is it you're looking for? Oh, we just need somebody to update our finance books. Okay, I can do that. I've never done QuickBooks before, but if you show me how to do it, I can take care of that. So what started out as 10 hours a day turned into almost full time. I've been with her for 7 years now, and grew from just doing the books to working the front desk, to working with clients, to holding open houses, and now I'm a licensed real estate agent, but I don't do sales. I know that that's not where I shine. I like doing more of the management portion of it. So when I decided to run for office, my boss actually approached me and asked if I'd ever thought about city council, and I said, no, I work for you. And she said, well, we could make it work because you'd be good at it. So I started thinking about it, and I'm one of those people that like to help people and be a voice. And so I decided that this was an opportunity to do that on a much bigger scale. So I've always been in the mindset that there are people out there that want to do something for others. For whatever reason, they don't have that capability. So when I was a stay-at-home mom, I had that capability of being at the school and doing these programs. I had the capability of taking on scouts, baseball, team mom, all of that stuff. And I had the capability of doing this position. So I went for it, and lo and behold, here I am.
That's great. So what do you think from your military experience helped you the most in running for city council?
One of the main lessons that you're going to learn in the military, well, anybody that joins the military is going to learn, is it's service before self. You're always working for the greater of everyone else. And so while, my family may benefit from the decisions that we make, that's not my driving force. My driving force is what's the best thing for our community as a whole, not just one person, but for everybody. And so I would say that would be the biggest thing, is service before self. And if that becomes your core value, then really anything you do is going to be right.
Who has been a mentor or a role model that's shaped your leadership style, whether it's in the military or in your personal life or as a city council member?
That's a fun one. I would have to say, in the military, I was fortunate enough to have a commander who was the very first female fighter pilot in Iraq. And she was amazing, and, showed me that there really are no boundaries, right? When it comes to city council, I would say a previous city councilman, Rich Silverman. He has been there for me since the day I met him, and he scared me the day I met him because I interviewed with him. He was going to run for city council himself again because he didn't think there was any adequate candidates, and so we sat down, and when I left, I had that heart in my stomach feeling like, oh gosh, what am I doing, right? 2 days later, I get a message from him. He had written into the Manteca Bulletin, withdrew his application, and stood by me ever since. So he is, he's always there when I need somebody to talk to. We don't always agree on things, and, that's okay, because at the end of the day, we're still friends, and we can still talk about different topics, and we just listen. I listen to what his opinion on something is, and he listens to mine, and then we move on. So, and that's a valuable lesson to be learned. We don't have to agree on everything. We don't have to agree on anything as long as we're respectful to each other.
What was the one moment in your campaign that you thought that it's going to happen, that you're going to get there?
When I started getting negative messaging toward me. And so I was told the minute negative messaging comes out, it's because I'm a threat. And so I'll take it. But that negative messaging, you find a way to twist it and you turn it into something positive. And I think I was pretty good at doing that.
So taking that negative feedback, now as a council member, how do you handle that criticism, and how do you twist it as a council member now?
It's not always easy. There are times when there's so much criticism that it gets to be very overwhelming. You just have to know in your heart that you're doing what you think is the best thing. And as long as, I'll take our council meeting from the other night, for example. I did my research, and I came in thinking I was going to vote one way. And I asked more questions during the meeting, held everybody up, and I ended up changing my vote because the answers were satisfactory to me. And I took what people were saying, and then I took the overall population that we have, and you kind of have to weigh it out, right? And the one thing to remember is you will never make everybody happy, ever. If I vote yes, the ones that advocate for no, they're going to be upset with me. If I vote no, the ones that advocate for yes, they're going to be upset with me. So can I sleep well at night with my decision? Yeah, I can, but that's what it comes down to is you take all those negative comments, but then you take those positive ones and it outweighs it, right?
Yeah.
So, and you just hope at some point people will understand.
So with that decision making that you have to do, what experience in your life do you credit from learning that of just you have to take it, or is it just the council? That's what you've learned so far.
Okay, so truth be told, I did not know I had this kind of strength before I ran for city council. I had no idea. So it just kind of came out of nowhere, but sometimes you find out that you have a strength or a talent when you least expect it.
Okay, so what do you think are top 3 most pressing issues facing Manteca right now? And how is the council planning to address them?
You're shaking.
He's laughing.
I'm laughing.
Same thing. Top 3 pressing issues. So, in my perspective, coming from District 2, that's going to be the proposal for a gas station. That affects a lot of people in that immediate area. After the other night, it would be, aligning Woodward Park with the other community parks for having alcohol usage and beer gardens, under permit. So those are the 2 newest pressing issues. Other than that, it's going to be the roads, the infrastructure, our safety, making sure that we have enough resources in order to adequately cover a growing city, which people are upset with because we're at 95,000 people now. And, we have a lot of residents that still remember us being at 20,000 people. So it's a big change, and not everybody likes change. So population growth, infrastructure, safety. I would say those 3.
And how is the council planning to address those issues?
Well, currently we are focusing more on the commerce side of our growth, so that we have more resources here for our residents. All of the housing that you see right now that's happening was decided on 20 to 30 years ago. We inherited that. So every single project that you see right now was decided on from a previous council. And there are legalities behind stopping projects when they're already in process, right? The projects that was decided on prior to my coming on, the Hat Ranch, those haven't started yet, but they will, because it's already been approved. The general map was, again, inherited, right? So the best that we can do is make sure that we have the resources here so people don't need to go out of town. That'll help the tax base, which will help us with the infrastructure, which will help us make Manteca overall what it is that people are looking for, right? But everything has been inherited from years past. So we gotta make the best of it we can. Manteca, because it has grown outward, it's not what you would call a master development city. There are cities that they had a master development plan, and so they're built different than what Manteca is. Manteca, we started with the center and we grew outward. And now we're trying to make those pieces fit today's world, right? And so, and a lot of agricultural towns, cities have that issue.
Right. So in these issues, how do you weigh the differing opinions of residents, and how do you balance representing your district with representing the needs of the entire city?
It's not easy. My district is more than just a small area. My district in particular is the southeast portion and the of 120, and then the east of 99. So it comes all the way around. And those different areas that I have, they all have different needs. You know, I've got an area that the roads need a lot of work. I have another area where it's newer housing, but they want their park to be handled in a certain way. And then with the rest of the city, you know, their concern would be, you know, downtown, their roads. You know, every neighborhood has a different concern. And so what we have to do is look at what the issue is that we're looking at, and remember that we're making a decision just for everybody. I don't look at it as just my district. You know, what is decided in District 2 is going to affect District 1, District 3, District 4, and vice versa. You know, when we get a fire station in District 1, that's going to affect District 2 because it's going to alleviate some of the pressure off of us. And it's going to, you know, the other fire stations as well. So every decision we make is going to affect all four of them no matter what we do.
What advice would you give to young people who want to have a voice and want to have an opinion in how their city is running?
Go to a council meeting. Young people, same as adults, can, if they have a concern, they can come up and speak during public comments, and they'll get their 3 minutes to come up and say what it is that they want to say. But do it in a way that's respectful. That's what I would ask. You know, don't come in, you know, temper blazing and, you know, I want this and I want this right now, because we're human too, you know, and we take a lot of time from our day, from our families, to try to do what's right and try to make sure the city is running properly. So I would say come in with the mindset that if you have a suggestion, council, I'd like to work with you on a solution, not council, you need to do it this way.
Would you believe that, or would you hope to believe that the majority of the city appreciates what you do or knows truly the extent of how hard you're working?
I would hope so. I would hope so, but a lot of people don't. You know, when you are in charge of a project, if everyone knows the challenges of the project that you have going, then you're not doing a good job doing the job. Because at the end of the day, people need to see the product, right? They don't need to see all of the problems that went into building the project. You want them to enjoy it. Same thing at camp. When you go to a camp, you know, those counselors, they deal with a lot of stuff. The leaders deal with a lot of stuff. The kids don't ever see it because they're there to enjoy it. You know, we want our residents to enjoy living here, to have a quality of life that they can appreciate. You know, we take care of all of those plans and all of the coordination so that it's not a cluster and everybody doesn't have to see that. They can just enjoy the end product. And unfortunately, some people like to see the work that goes in between, whether it's an argument or it's, you know, praise, which is fine, but it's not always necessary. There's a lot of background stuff that happens. There's a lot of professionals that are involved that we rely on, because it's not my job to decide where a sewer pipe's going to go. That's up to the engineer, right? It's just my job to approve that project and say, go ahead and make it happen. So, did I answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
In your term so far, what has been your favorite project that's been completed?
My favorite project that's been completed. Well, I don't know. I enjoy it all, honestly. You know, we, back in the spring, I asked for a revisit of our flag policy, and we just passed that. I am in the opinion that there are 3 flags that truly represent all Mantecans. And those 3 flags that bring us all together should fly at City Hall. The other flags, commemorative and holiday flags, that's not the word I'm looking for, commemorative and like event flags, those are great. And while I appreciate them, they are also divisive. They are meant for a certain group of people. And so, you know, I'm in the opinion that those don't go on City Hall, because City Hall is meant to unify us. You know, so we just passed an ordinance, and we'll vote on the wording in the future, that the commemorative flags will fly on the leased properties as those businesses see fit. But City Hall will have the 3 unifying flags that bring us all together. So I'm proud of that. And there's little things, you know, getting a bus stop at Thomas Toy Community Center, you know, so that every student has access to the community center. You know, it's small. It's a small thing, but it can be huge to a student here at East Union who can't walk and doesn't have a ride to get over to the community center, and now they can go over there, have something to eat, do their homework, hang out with friends, and just be themselves. You know, so for somebody that could be a very big step.
Yeah. Going back to the flag policy, what are the 3 flags that are going to be permitted? The U.S., the California,
and if we adopt a Manteca flag, the Manteca flag, so the Manteca city departments will also qualify as representing the Manteca city.
Okay. So what is your opinion on the upcoming proposition on the ballot and how it's going to affect Manteca as a part of San Joaquin County, Prop 50, and why?
So I actually did a video that was posted, a prop video against Prop 50. So my reasoning behind that is that it divides the valley severely. It makes it to where we don't have fair representation across the board. So, and it's also a retaliatory prop. So it was created in retaliation for what our governor says that the president is doing. And so what isn't told is that it, you know, the change in Texas was a court order. It wasn't from the president. And so that gets left out. But at the end of the day, everyone needs to have fair representation and not put the selection of these particular officials in government's hands. You know, we have a system in place where people get to choose their representatives, not the government, and they want to change that. So Lodi, for example, will be split into 3 different districts in one city. That's going to be a logistical nightmare. So the valley, it will affect the valley significantly.
So with that, do you support or are you against gerrymandering in all situations?
Am I against gerrymandering? I'm against it. Yeah. no room for having that type of control where you're going to make something completely one-sided. So there needs to be equal representation.
Okay. Going back, what event that the city of Manteca has a part in, because I know they have a lot of events, what event that the city puts on or city helps put on do you think has the biggest effect on Manteca positively?
We have a lot of events.
Yeah.
The street fairs bring a lot of people in. Our downtown association is doing a lot to build up our downtown. You know, we have the trunk or treat coming up, and last year trunk or treat was insanely good. You know, and it's supported by the city. It's supported by the food bank. You know, the food bank brings the candy, and we have the Thanksgiving dinner that Kiwanis and Rotary and all these different organizations put together, and people come together and they serve hundreds and thousands of meals. Christmas drives. There are so many organizations that do these toy drives to help kids that go without otherwise. Our parades, I could just go on and on. We have events literally on a weekly basis, and it's just going to get bigger and better. We're going to get the family entertainment zone. There's going to be so much more for our families to do, and it's going to be a few years down the road before they're ready. But I'll tell you, when we first got Great Wolf Lodge, I thought, great, my kid's going to have a first job, and he did. That was his first job, was at Great Wolf Lodge. But I knew when it started up, it was still going to be years down the road, So all these places that are going to get built at the family entertainment zone, you guys watch. The ones that are in elementary school right now, that'll be where they go first. And it's bringing, lots of jobs to our city.
So what are some of the entertainment businesses that are coming to the feds?
So from my understanding, we're getting a new entertainment zone, like with bowling. It's going to have, I think, laser tag, kind of like one of the, I can't think of the names, but it's going to have the video games, the laser tag, the miniature golf, all of that stuff. It's
esports, like
virtual reality.
Virtual
VR.
reality. It's not 10-pin, but it's a different company to that. So we're going to have restaurants. We're getting these huge grocery stores that are everything's going to be elevated in experience. So this family entertainment zone is going to have housing options over there. It's going to have restaurant options. It's going to have outdoor options. Because currently, we get visitors that go to Great Wolf Lodge, but once the water slides close, what do? They go out to dinner and then they go back to their hotel room. So this will give them some nighttime options as well.
Right. And do you think that Manteca is in the process of creating a better nightlife for residents, especially with the creation of our new downtown improvement district?
They're trying. They are trying. We've got some new locally owned locations downtown, the R&B, Deaf Puppy Comedy. We're trying to make it so that downtown is truly walkable and you can go from business to business and, just enjoy your time down there. Promenade shops, they're doing the same thing. They're under new ownership, and I don't know if you saw, but they're bringing in the Winterfest. Did you guys see that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, we're getting our own ice rink out there. Oh, we don't have to go to Modesto anymore. I saw that. It's super exciting. They've got a pumpkin patch there right now with bounce houses. They're going to bring in a tree lot and the ice rink and a whole Winterfest, month-long Winterfest right there at the promenade shops. So they're making it much more family-oriented to where people are going to want to come in and do these activities.
Speaking of downtown, in Library Park, I heard there were talks about changing Library Park into something for food trucks. What's the process on that, or is it happening?
It's in the works. That's about all I know about that one.
Okay. What can students and clubs like Teens for Democracy do to make an impact in the city, to civically, by service, just in general?
So I would say for sure, Teens and Democracy should look at joining the Youth Advisory Committee. So we do still have available seats. We just brought on 9 students to that committee, and that committee is going to go through a drastic revitalization. So they're going to be much more involved than they ever have been. At least that's what I'm told. But that's where you start. Start with the Youth Advisory. Go to Student and Government Day if you haven't been. Go to the City Council meetings. Go to the Planning Commission meetings. There's a lot of different types of meetings that you guys can attend. We even have the Measure Q meeting. We've got different commissions, and they're all open to the public. Some of them only meet a couple times a year, but they're open to the public for you to go and see how their process works, right? But the City Council meetings, for sure, the first and third Wednesdays of every month, unless for whatever reason it needs to be canceled. Planning Commission.
First and third Tuesdays.
Tuesdays. The Planning Commission meetings, I believe, are the first and third Thursdays of each month. You can sign up for their newsletter so that you get notified, what their agenda is. So the meetings are on Tuesday. Our agendas are posted on Thursday, the Thursday prior. And so you can see what's on that agenda. You can write in any concerns. You can ask questions of your council member, and just start getting involved in that way.
Based on your volunteer service in our community, what service organization do you believe has the biggest impact on Manteca?
Scouts. 100% Scouts. So both of my kids are Eagle Scouts. I have a son and a daughter, and they're both Eagle Scouts. And being able to learn that kind of discipline and leadership and communication skills, it's priceless for our kids. It carries through into your college experience and ultimately into the line of work that you choose to go into. Scouting, we as a family, we were extremely involved, my husband and I, and it's a good feeling to be able to see kids learn and grow from when they're little, and then when they graduate high school, and all of a sudden they're true adults. They talk and they speak and they conduct themselves, with this confidence. And it's an amazing thing to see. We went to a pinning ceremony for some reserve firefighters. My husband and I did. And we're sitting there, and my husband's like, wait, is that so-and-so? One of his Boy Scouts got pinned as a reserve firefighter. And talk about being proud, because a lot of the skills that this kid learned, he learned in Scouts. It's an amazing thing to watch and to witness the growth that these kids have.
Yeah, the first fireman chit.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah, start learning.
You start learning from the very,
So, we had an assembly today at school. It was all about veterans and service members and first responders and patriotism. How do you, and with the large veterans community in Manteca, do you believe that we're going the right way in terms of our patriotism towards our country?
In general?
In general.
Yeah, I think so. I think that as long as we continue to show patriotism and teach patriotism, kids don't learn that unless they learn it from their family, their parents, their teachers, their school, to know that, you do the Pledge of Allegiance and why we do the Pledge of Allegiance. Why do we honor our veterans? What is the history behind that? It's all very important. And I think kids are learning that. At least I hope my kids did, but they also see pictures of me in uniform. So it makes it a little bit different when, it's your parent that was in uniform, right? So we need to connect the kids with the history, and so that they can see why it's relevant to them.
I think that's all the questions I have. If
You did good.
Thank you. If anyone else has any questions for Councilwoman Lackey, now is the time for the open Q&A.
No?
Anything?
I have one.
Oh boy.
I mean, being a new council member, what's your learning process in terms of it's a lot thrown at you. I mean, you don't get time, obviously, a day to actually say, okay, let me go and learn this and then I'll get back to you. You have to learn on the job.
Mm-hmm.
So what has been your process since day one? How have you been learning? What have you been doing to learn different things in the city? What's happening? What's your update process and so on?
I just absorb as much as I possibly can. I listen to everybody. I watch. I do tell people, I'm sorry, I don't know that answer. Let me get back to you. Because the worst mistake that I could ever make is pretend that I know that everything, and I give inaccurate information. So I always, will say, I'm not really sure. Let me find out for you, and I'll respond. I would say that that's the biggest thing, and I find out who to get the answers from. Mm-hmm. As long as you know who to get the answers from, you can do anything. Right. But when I first decided to run, it was a lot of going to the council meetings, watching previous council meetings. This was never in my plans, by the way.
Yeah.
A door opened. An opportunity came about, and I took it. And so
my next question is actually connected to this one is, how long did you take to decide from day one to say that, yes, I'm gonna go for it? And what was your turning point at that time? What happened?
So I've been asked, and so it took probably about 2 weeks of reflection, and then honestly, my daughter got her driver's license, and 3 days later I said, okay, I'll do it. Because now I don't have to drive. I'm not taxi mom anymore. So I permanently was fired from that job and was able to help other people. Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, you can go.
I have a question. So, you taking up this responsibility also meant that you needed your family's support. Mm-hmm. So, how did they react to when you said, "Oh, I'm going to run for council"?
Very well. So my husband actually asked me to run for council 4 years prior. So, because he thought I'd be great at it, and I told him no, I wasn't ready to do something like that. Probably won't ever be ready, right? But I was still driving my daughter around and, making sure that my kids. So when I first started working, the deal that I had with my boss was that I would always take my kids to school. I would always pick them up from school and be with them in the afternoons. They wouldn't know what it was to not have a parent at home, okay? So when she started driving, all of a sudden I had all this free time on my hands, 3 whole days of free time. And then I started really digging in. Well, my husband was behind it. My kids were not shocked at all. And they were very supportive. And, the 3 of them are still my biggest supporters, my biggest cheerleaders.
Questions? Yeah. Without getting anyone in trouble or specifics, what's a disagreement like in a position of government, and what are some effective things that leaders do to get through disagreements?
It depends on what city you're in. True story. So there are cities that unfortunately they don't have the communication needed to work through a disagreement. And it comes out in their city council meetings, and it comes out in a very, very negative way. So people can see that discourse happening, right? And it's not productive. In our council, we are very fortunate. We have our beliefs and we have, our ways of thinking, but we all respect each other. We can all communicate very well and have that discussion. And a lot of times for our council, the 5 of us do get along very well. And, it's give and take. It really is. Sometimes you have to compromise, but other times they compromise, and so it just depends on the topic, I think.
It's kind of what politics is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Given the spotlight that typically is on, national offices or state offices, or how important is local governing?
Oh, local government is the most important government there is, because we are the boots on the ground. We work with our constituents, our neighbors, our districts on a daily basis. We are that frontline person. The issues that higher government deals with is not the same issues that we deal with. They deal with global issues. They deal with finance issues, whatever the case may be. We don't deal with that stuff. We deal with, how do we make our roads safe? How do we get those bike lanes in? How do we have safe routes to school? You're not going to have that at the Congress level. What they're going to have for us is in the form of grants. We're going to ask them, please, give us grants, give us funds so that we can make our city the best that it can be for these different functions. And so really the local level is, from what I understand, because I have not been at the higher levels, the local level is the best place to really make an impact.
Questions, anyone else? Yeah, so I think that goes into my question. I know you're still very new in your term, and your next election is a while away. Have you been thinking about higher offices in city council?
I was going to say no comment at this time.
That would be the right.
It has been mentioned. We'll see what happens in the next couple of years. And then I will decide if that door is still open or if it's not.
I was going to Mr. Lee's question, tying to that is, the entire council working well is also not welcomed by the residents. You have
Correct.
seen and heard it, right? So how do you deal with that? This thing, like, okay, we see other cities, other neighboring cities you said like the communication is not the best. Right? They have a different way of communicating, and that shows in the council meetings. We as far as, and I've also seen those meetings as well. I think we personally, I think that we have one of the best councils. The chemistry with the council members, right? So with everything going positive, like this is a good thing. And how do you deal? Like, what do you think about it in terms of like, how do you deal with that? Like, this is a positive thing, but even though people don't like it, because you guys
There is no
agree,
drama.
yeah, there's no drama.
There is no drama in your meeting. It's
So-
boring.
Okay, so the root of your question is when it comes to politics, people think in two categories. You've got Democrats and you've got Republicans. And my seat, and at the local level, city council is nonpartisan. We work for everybody. However, with that being said, people still vote if they're Republican or if they're Democrat. And they will ask you. As I'm going through the campaign, they ask me. And so, and I did get a lot of support for the side that I sit on, that I'm registered as. However, you have your far extreme on each side of the fence, okay? And the more you come into the middle, the more understanding you have of each other. Now, our council is made up of a mix of both sides. However, we are very similar in our communication styles and a lot of what we think, even though we're on different sides of the fence. That's what you want. You want to be able to have that communication regardless on Democrat or Republican so that you can move toward a solution and you can move toward some sort of action. Nothing stops progress, right? And if we have those extreme disconnects, like some people would expect, there is no progress being made. Everything comes to a standstill. And that includes our safety comes to a standstill. You know, if we couldn't agree on who our city manager is going to be, if she can't agree on who our fire chief's going to be, he can't agree on who, everyone down the line is, then everything stops and our safety is at risk at that point. So it all starts at the top. If we can't get along, then we can't expect everyone down the chain to be cohesive too.
So would you say it's more important that regardless of what political stance someone takes or what policy stance one takes, to see oneself as a servant leader to those people who you are there to serve? As long as you do that, the policies will fall into line.
100%. And that goes back to, when I make a decision, can I sleep at night? Do I know that I made the best choice and I did my research and I asked the questions? And typically what I do is I will ask those questions in a public forum so everybody gets the same answer. And so did I ask enough questions? There's always going to be more that I can ask, and there's always going to be more information. But at the end of the day, if I believe truly in my heart that I made a choice that is for the greater and not just for a small pocket, then I know I'm okay. Anybody else?
My neighbor's a Manteca High fan. How can I legally be mean to him? Just kidding.
Well, there's nothing illegal about being here.
So,
I like my neighbor a lot. He's good too.
I will say that everyone else on council comes from one Manteca high school or another, and they praise their high schools whenever possible.
Oh, yeah.
And so my stance on that is I appreciate all of our high school students equally. And I have no favoritism over them. That's what I said yesterday, right?
You said it publicly.
I said it publicly. Yes, I did. And so I was an Arroyo Don out of San Lorenzo. So, yeah.
I think
Is that
that's,
it?
that's it.
Well,
Thank you
thank you
so
guys
much.
for having me. I appreciate it. And hopefully, you got all the information you need. And of course, you can always email me or call me. And if you have any other questions. So I'm always reachable.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
You're
you so
very
much
welcome.
for this.